Just in the last few days on this story. Just days after being snapped with apparently thinning hair, the former footballer has been spotted showing a much fuller head of thicker hair. Suggestions have been raised that he might even be having his hair sprayed on. Get out of here. Let's talk to hair loss expert Spencer Stevenson, who, it says here, has undergone several corrective surgeries himself. Spencer, good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Well, I've just Googled you, and I've just seen some pictures, and you've got a full head of hair.
I have now, indeed, but I unfortunately suffered hair loss at a young age, starting out 20 years ago, and through my own journey had a few poor hair transplant procedures, and have since, as you mentioned, gone under corrective surgery, and now sport a very good, thick, full head of hair. So thank you for mentioning.
Well, no, I'm looking. Obviously, when a story like this comes up, I'm looking at the pictures. But you're a good-looking man, Spencer. Don't take the wrong. You are, and I'm thinking that's fantastic hair you've got.
Well, I appreciate the compliment. I have got a good head of hair now, but if you look back to my pictures before I had any hair surgery,
no.
I was thinning a great deal, and it's a very common issue that young men, unfortunately, and older men suffer with. Male pattern baldness is unfortunately a bit of a hidden epidemic, and we suffer in silence. And through my own trials and tribulations, I set up my own website, spexhair.com, to empower and educate many hair loss sufferers so they can avoid the same mistakes that I made.
Before we talk about Mr. Beckham, you've gone through the process. Are we now at a stage, clearly I'm looking at your pictures, but are we now at a stage with whatever technology we have that if you've got problems with a receding hairline or you've lost hair, if you've got money, I presume, you can have a full head of hair?
It all depends on the individual, on the extent of their hair loss. However, in the right hands, and if you can get your hair loss under control, because hair loss is progressive, and there are proven treatments, such as a prescription medication called finasteride, which I take, which helps prevent further loss. If in the right hands, you can restore a fantastic-looking natural head of hair. However, unfortunately, the industry is quite a remarkable place, and there's a lot of clinics out there that aren't what they say they are, and a lot of cowboy clinics that are taking advantage of hair loss sufferers, unfortunately. Okay. So it's important that the patient gets and the consumer gets empowered and educated so they make the right decisions, and if they are going to elect for hair transplant surgery, which is a last resort, you must try a number of different proven treatments before embarking on a hair transplant procedure, then there are a number of clinics out there that are very good, but you need to do your research.
Let me ask you, for normal people, men and women who lose their hair, clearly they're going to be big. There can be big psychological issues. For some people, it is very important about their appearance, and I get that. We should all understand that. But what's the story with David Beckham? What's he done?
Well, I feel sorry for David Beckham because at the end of the day, he is human like all of us. And, the speculators are out there, me included. I've been involved in a number of media articles recently. But he is unfortunately losing his hair, which I believe he is doing. He's 43 now. He is going to, unfortunately, fall under the potential arrow of male pattern baldness. And, the speculators are, assuming that how he's gone in the space of a couple of weeks from looking really, really thin to a somewhat matted, thicker, darker, sprayed-on head of hair look begs the question, what David has actually done.
Has he had a transplant? Is he wearing some sort of concealer? People suggesting that it's sprayed on.
He's certainly not had a hair transplant in the space of the last 2 weeks. In my expert opinion, I genuinely feel that David, for whatever presentation that he has been in the media for and all the pictures are in all the publications, he's what's called use concealers, in my opinion, to help thicken up the appearance of his hair for the relevant media event that he's attended.
Okay, and what is a concealer in the case of hair and covering up hair loss?
Concealers they come in different forms, but basically what they do is they give the illusion of hair. They can come in kind of a fibre form, a nanogen fibre, or you can have a spray on that goes on, or you can have a makeup that helps thicken up and dilutes down the appearance of your scalp, so there's no contrast between light hitting the scalp. So concealers essentially are like makeup. They add thickness to the hair. And David's certainly got a lot of hair still on his head, but it's not as thick as it once was, as we know. And I think because of the colour and the contrast against his native hair around the sides and the back, it's clear to me that he's using some form of cover-up.
Spencer, can I ask you, we're going to take some travelling very shortly for you, and you've had the process, you're now involved in the industry, of course, and your hair does look good, I have to say again, in the pictures. How important is it to you to have a full head of hair?
For me personally, it's very important to have a head of hair. Essentially, it doesn't have to be a full head of hair, but it's hair loss, unfortunately, until you've experienced it, is a very personal thing, and it does affect your confidence and your self-esteem if you're losing your hair. Until you've been there, it's a very difficult concept to comprehend. But for me personally, it's very important, as it is for many others. We run a radio show called The Bald Truth, where hundreds of thousands of people tune into. It's a real hidden epidemic, hair loss, and there are the community out there to help people if they want to talk about it and share their anxieties.
Spencer, thank you for sharing your time. Spencer Stevenson, who has undergone several corrective surgeries himself, and if you look at the pictures, seriously, I'm looking at the pictures, and his hair looks really good.